Welcome to Monster Dear Monster. I'm one of your hosts, Dave. I'm joined today by Cameron and Matt. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, pretty good myself. How about you, Matt?
I'm great. I'm drinking some tea-flavored Estus.
It's an undead favorite. So, as you might have gathered, dear listener, we're going to be delving into the monsters of the Dark Souls series. Today we'll be focusing on Dark Souls 1. And I think it would be remiss of us if we didn't talk a little bit about how we got into the series. I was going to go first, but Cameron, how did you get into Dark Souls?
Yeah, sure. I started playing Dark Souls 1, is where I started. I started in 2012, I think. It's a bit of a funny story because I actually got into Dark Souls through Borderlands, of all things.
Borderlands.
Okay.
Yeah. So I really love Borderlands 1 and 2. And there was a YouTuber who I always watched by the name of Masterkiz, I believe. He doesn't really upload anymore, but he did a lot of Borderlands stuff. And one day he started a Dark Souls walkthrough. And I watched, the first couple of episodes, the Asylum and the first half of the Undead Burg. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll give it a go. And then I got to Anor Londo and quit. And about 6 months later, I picked it up again and beat it in a couple of weeks.
So you played Dark Souls 1, just played Demon Souls at all?
I have gone back and played Demon Souls up through to the Penetrator, I think. I still got to go back, replug in my PS3 and finish that off at some point.
And how about yourself, Matt? Well, I didn't really know much about it when it first came out. I just it's one of those games that I heard through the grapevine. People were talking about it, but I didn't really know much about it. I then decided to look it up, read a few articles on it, and to me, it sounded like the worst game ever. In the sense that when I was reading the sort of description about, invasions and, if you lose your souls, if you die, going back to it, it just sounded like, I thought to myself, that sounds the most stressful game I could ever play. But, I ended up picking it up, I think when it was free with Xbox games with gold. I think that was the sort of. I think that's where the first time I properly got into it. I did buy it before that. Did about a quarter of an hour. I thought, no, I'm not playing this. This is far too hard for me. What a lot of people experience. But then I just gave it a few goes and eventually got into it. And then sort of in the series, I'm probably about halfway through Demon Souls. Probably from about 2 years ago. So I've still got my save. I can go back to it at any point. And like I was saying before the episode, I bounced off Dark Souls 2 quite a few times, so I've not really played much of that at all. But I will do. And I've completed all of 3 and Bloodborne, with Bloodborne being my favourite, I must admit, for multiple reasons. But that's no criticism of Dark Souls. It just resonates with me, but we'll cover that.
We'll get around to it.
Okay. Yeah. Yourself, Dave?
Yeah. So I gotta stretch back a few years. I remember picking up Demon Souls on launch, 2009, I think, somewhere around there. I don't recall. I wasn't looking on any forums or anything, so I don't really know how I saw it. Probably because I bought a lot of Atlas games, and they were who was like publishing it stateside at the time.
Yeah.
So I think I just saw the cover and then flipped it over, and it just looked cool. There was I think a lot of the blurbs and some of the stuff online was just really heavy talking on the bosses. Like that was like the big attraction, and I don't. This may have had a manual. I don't remember if the games, everything's kind of gone digital at this point, and they don't really have manuals anymore in the boxes. But I think this one did have it, and it kind of had, Dirty Colossus and Adjudicator, and they were in there, and I was like, that's the coolest, like, most metal sounding stuff ever. So I wanted to give it a shot, and I gave it a shot, and yeah, I probably I don't even think I got very far into like World 1-1. I just bounced right off. I think it was a time issue. I was sharing the same. We had like me and my roommate had the one TV, so I always felt bad if I monopolized it for playing a game or something that wasn't like multiplayer or something we could kind of do together. And Dark Souls is, or any of the Souls games, is pretty much a singular experience. At least no controller swapping as much on that.
Oh god, no. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think I may have sold it. I don't remember. But I know I was still wanted to play it. So when Dark Souls came out, I bought it immediately, and was with the same roommate, like 2 years later. So the same thing happened. I was just like, I could see that you needed more time than I was willing to be able to put down to play it. And, doing it in like 30-minute stretches at a time just didn't feel feasible. So I put it away for a while, and lo and behold, Dark Souls 2 came out, and I was in a different point, I guess, in my life at that time. So I just had more free time, and I could sit there and just play for a few hours at a time. And I just kind of powered through Dark Souls 2. And then my brother, I got him into playing 2 as well. So we both beat that kind of concurrently. And so we figured, I'll go pick up the greatest hits of Dark Souls edition. So we got that, and we're doing the same thing, kind of like just every other day would be like I would play for a few hours, and then either he would pick it up afterward, or the next day he would play his character for a while, and we just kind of leapfrogged through the levels, so you get so far, and then we tried to not really watch each other play, because it kind of like ruins it. And doesn't give you that feeling of exploring it by yourself. But at the same time, it was kind of fun to like watch someone just, I fell off a ledge or something. So we went through, and I don't remember where we stopped. I don't think we made it all the way through to the end at that time. Because Bloodborne was coming out, I believe, by the time we actually were getting around to playing Dark Souls 1. So we just started playing Bloodborne instead. And then eventually, independently, we went back and beat Dark Souls. But yeah, I enjoyed having someone in the same house go through and play it at the same time. We could just kind of talk about it that way. That was fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, for me, I've had no one, in real life that I could like family or friends to really talk to about it. But I'll tell you one little story. It was actually to do with Dark Souls and my mum, actually. I remember once I think I first started playing Dark Souls 1 when my mum was visiting me, because she lives a few hours away, and I thought, I don't know why, this is a bit of a bizarre thing, but she would go and I think she was getting herself ready for, we were going to head out somewhere, and usually if she'd do that, I'd pop my Xbox or PlayStation on, play a game that would that would take about sort of 10 to 30 minutes, like like a Call of Duty, like a sports game or something like that. I decided to boot up Dark Souls for the first time. I don't know why. It just happened, and so when she came back out of the bathroom or such, like I was at the asylum demon, and she actually was helping me, try and beat it. I mean, my mum has no concept of video games at all, and it was one of those sort of things where I kept dying to the boss, and she's like, well, why don't you try and do this? And I'm like, Mum, shut up, Mum, I can do this, I'm a gamer. And she ended up sort of giving me a good advice to actually beat it, quite funny enough. I mean, this is the same mum that helped me do Bart Simpson versus a Space Mutants on the NES when I was a kid. So she could get further. And that game was nails anyway. So she's turned into a pro gamer when it counts.
Do you have any similar stories, Cameron?
No, not really. I've never really played any of the Souls games alongside anyone else. Recently I did help a friend begin Bloodborne. He was a little put off by the whole but so I helped guide him gently through Central Yharnam. And
gently.
Yeah. It took us about 40 minutes, but we got to the open square with the big bonfire with the Scourge beast on it.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Okay, I want to see how you can do that." And I got there in 25 seconds. I look and I was like, "Okay, now you have to spend 4 years getting this good."
Yeah.
There's definitely that skill wall, I think.
Yeah.
When you're new to any of the games in the franchise. Like I said, it's my youngest brother that was playing it along with me, and I have another brother who, at the same time, he's more of a PC gamer, so he decided to he's like, "Oh yeah, that Dark Souls looks cool. I'll play it on PC and it'll look way better," trying to be that elitist, I guess. And this was when did he get it? I think DS Fix was out when he started playing it, but I don't think he installed it. Something was wrong, and it was just having a big frame rate issue like the whole time, and I could just hear him complaining about the controls. And it's like I'm watching him like, I don't think it's the frame rate, buddy, but sure, you can blame that. So having somewhat successfully gotten two siblings into the series, I gave it a go this last couple months ago. My sister, I decided that she should play it too. She's the baby of the family. She's considerably younger than myself, and I think she doesn't really much of a gamer. Really, she maybe plays a couple RPGs, or I can't even think Undertale. I think I don't play it, but I think that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
She's more into that. But so I was like, well, I think I made her read Lovecraft or something. So I was like, you try Bloodborne. I think you might like at least the way it looks. And so she gave it a valiant effort of 15 minutes maybe, and was just like not having it. If it's a Twitch game, you as far as like your reflexes, you need to have a certain skill set. It's accessible to everyone. I mean, anyone can learn the controls, but I think going from a purely turn-based role-playing games to something like Bloodborne or any of the games it's a large leap. So what we ended up doing, I think as a compromise, was I said, you know what, let's take a couple steps back. Here's Dark Souls. We'll start here, and then you can kind of get a better feel for it, because out of the games, I think that Dark Souls gives you the best introduction to the systems that it wants you to understand. And it's difficult but fair. I mean, there's nothing in there that the enemies can do that you can't do too, to an extent. So I think she's up to the Taurus demon. And she got there in like under an hour, which is good. Okay, yeah. And 30 minutes of that wasn't running through. 30 minutes of it was me making her parry over and over again. The little hollows, just endlessly, until she could do it every single time. And I made her kick everyone with the shield, so she could parry and kick, the two things that I always forget you can do. And she learns them, like that was her base skill, was doing those first, which was great.
Dave, I got this mental image that you go to your siblings at some point in their life, put your hand on their shoulder, and go, "It's time."
Basically, that's
and there's there's a Mr. Miyagi sort of montage coming out after it.
Carry the hollow.
Yeah, it's just like that actually. Actually, it's a lot of me screaming, "Why aren't you blocking?
Yeah,
Put your shield down." It's super frustrating. Like it's fine for like 20 minutes, and then I just get like, okay, just give me the controller.
Yeah,
I'll just show you.
Yeah. Now you play with a Rock Band guitar.
Exactly. Actually, I'm gonna plug in the toaster. Have fun.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Because I think some dude beat it with the toaster.
Probably.
But I think you're right. We do sort of learn techniques the more you play these sort of games. I mean, I sort of developed what I call the nope technique as I play these games now, which is basically going around a corner, either seeing something or something, coming from around the corner, trying to hit you, and I go nope, and then I just roll around a lot and just go nope. This is I literally say in my head, I'm going nope as I roll every time, like no, is it trying to hit me, and it's sort of, and then I run out of there and go right, game plan time. So yeah, I think everyone's got their own way of doing it, but right.
All right. Well, perfect. Your nope strategy leads us, I think, right into the selection of beasties that we've all gone through. I guess a good chunk of Dark Souls, and selected a few of our own personal favorites for one reason or another. I'll start off. My first selection is the Balder Knight, who makes his appearance in the Undead Parish.
Yep.
Now, this little buddy, if you're unfamiliar with Dark Souls, well, spoilers, we're just going to be talking about the whole thing. Again, I guess we should just... Yeah. So, these guys, they're Miyazaki, the director of Dark Souls, he based a lot of his creature designs and lore and game, and a large chunk of it on the manga Berserk. Yes. And the Balder Knights are reminiscent of one of the early uniform outfits that a mercenary band wears. So to set the stage, the Undead Parish and the Undead Burg, for that matter, that leads into it, is infested with these hollows. So they're previous humans wandering around aimlessly. I don't want to say they're zombies, because they're not really zombies.
No.
They basically lost the will to go on, and they're cursed to remain undead, and kind of they look more like mummies, I guess, like mummified soldiers.
I'll say so.
Yeah.
So the general, the first guys you encounter, they're just kind of wearing scraps of armor. No one looks like fully decked out, and you do run into a couple guys that have some helmets on and a little bit more substantial armor. But for the most part, everyone's kind of dispatched with hopefully, maybe 3 strikes or so of your chosen weapon, unless you're running around punching things, which is not suggested. But people do.
Yeah, they do.
And you make your way past a few formidable larger enemies, a boss figure, and a strange pig boar wearing also plate mail. Bizarre, but memorable. But none of the general hollow kind of cannon fodder guys are visually like. I wasn't afraid of them. I didn't see them and went like, "Oh no, I'm not going to go that way." Because you've seen maybe 3 or 4 variants of them, and they're all just generally dispatched pretty easily. Well, you go through there's a fog wall, and it brings you into the Undead Parish, but I don't think it pulls up the title card. I think you're just kind of in that section.
Yeah.
So you're in these sort of ramparts of the upper part of the town. I don't know what you would call it. It's a little fortification, and maybe part of a barracks or something. But it's sort of claustrophobic. You can kind of see the sky beyond on one side, but it's a tunnel that you have to walk through. And you reach the end of the tunnel, and it sort of like turns into a T section where it goes left and right, and you can't go forward because you'd be walking off like the edge of the building. And you can't see to the left or the right, but you can tell that there's like a hall. The corridor like expands, and if any part of the preceding area has taught you is like probably not should just run into a blind corner like that. It might not be the best idea. So I distinctly recall the first time I kind of edged myself out, and for some reason I decided like whatever's there has got to be on like the right hand side. That's just where it's coming from. So I kind of creep out, and I can see like the tip of a spear sort of floating in the air, and I was like, I knew there's a guy right there. So I'll just like poke out a little bit, and you'll see me, and I'll just draw him into the tunnel. And I went to go do that, and all of a sudden I'm finding a sword, basically sticking out of my chest because there's a dude on the left also. And I don't even think I saw him, like, what killed me. I think I just, you died, and had to kind of make the run again. So this time I was like, okay, I know that there's two guys here. The other guy must be closer because he got me before the spear guy did, and the spear guy has a longer weapon. So I turn and take a peek on the left, and there's this like magnificent set of armor, like this guy just decked out and with this big flowing red cape, and it just like blew me away because before all the other guys, they're it's kind of drab, like little dirty armor, and then this guy's like, I have a giant cape, I must be like super important. And he like one-shotted me, so that already kind of like put a little bit of fear into me. And so I think I spent a little while trying to get a feel for how he was going to kill me again, because I thought that was going to be the reoccurring theme with this guy. But I eventually got the best of him and continued on my way, only to find there's more of this guy. But I want to say it's the cape and their helmet. The visor's flipped up all the way.
Yeah, on all of them as well. They're all flipped up, which I think is to contribute to the fear factor, because obviously you can see their eyes and face on that.
It is, but all I could think of was, I want to say it's Sir Percival from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, who keeps flipping up his helmet, and that's all I could think about, except for like the creepy cape. So I'm like scared of the cape guy, but then he just keeps popping his helmet up and like making a joke while he's stabbing you. So it was like.
That sums up Dark Souls, isn't
it? It is. That's the humor in it. Oh, you're actually a witch, and you're heavier than a duck, or the joke is. So that was my encounter with the first Baldur Knight. Mm-hmm. Cameron, I think it's your turn.
Yeah. Well, actually, leading on fairly nicely, my first choice here is Channelers. So right around the corner from where you had your first encounter with the Baldur Knight is a fairly large cathedral in the same area of the Undead Parish. There are some more Baldur Knights in there. There's also a Baronique Knight, a big, very heavily armored guy with a great shield and mace, but we're not here about him. We're here about, I pulled everyone out of that cathedral one by one. I killed them all one by one in different corners of the area. And then I stroll in. I've done this. I've done my job very well. I pick up, I think it's a Firekeeper soul on the altar. And this soul arrow just takes me in the back of the head, and I hadn't healed up. And so I got one shot by the channeler from the roof.
I think it catches everyone out, that one. It's he's a git, really, isn't he?
He really is. And so, I respawn, sigh, make my way back through again, get my way up there, and then he buffs an entire pack of mangy little hollows, and they tear me apart. And on the third go, I get through all the Bold Knights, through all the hollows, and I finally get the channeler. And I'm like, he seemed really unique, I'm probably never going to see him again.
Never.
I didn't find the one in the depths before I fought the Gaping Dragon.
Okay.
And so I started the Gaping Dragon fight, and suddenly there are soul arrows raining down from, the top balcony. Because the channel is looking down and trying to snipe me in the middle of a boss fight. And so I die. I scour the entire depths, finally find him, get rid of him. Never have to see them again. Go all the way through the game, through the Duke's archives. There's 3 of the damn things, and they respawn this time.
Yep.
And by the end of the game, I was just glad that a channeler didn't show up in as part of the final boss, to be honest. But not only are they sort of memorable encounters from my first couple of playthroughs, but I just really also love their design. They've got this 6-eyed, tall, hat-like helmet. They use a big trident that rotates around when they stab with it, so they're very unique looking.
Very
and
rare.
They have the best
weapon
animation in the game.
From a drop point of view.
Yeah, they have the best animation in the game from the trident, which is they do a dance.
Yeah, that's the best bit of them.
Yeah, they sort of just jump around with their trident. They buff everyone around them, but it's a cute little dance, so it's not that offensive.
The worst thing for the dance is that I've seen a video that series on Dark Souls where it's sort of this, I can't remember, I think it's Wild Pie or something like that, where they summarize an area at a time, and they and when he's summarizing the undead parish, he gets to the channeler and he's dancing. He's done it to dubstep, and it completely. I can't take. Well, I couldn't take them seriously before with the dance, but it's even worse when you've seen them dance to dubstep.
Yeah,
don't see it. You'll never
imagine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. As far as lore goes, these guys work for one of the big bads of Dark Souls 1. They work for Seath the Scaleless.
Mm-hmm.
According to some of the item descriptions, they have 6 eyes on their helmet to improve their sight, because Seath is blind. They have to do all his reading for him. And apart from that, they go around snatching maidens and undead for experimentation. So, the nicest of fellows. A little more malevolent than the regular hollows.
Yeah, and I do like that their special trident, or rather their trident that has the little buff dance move.
Yeah.
Makes its appearance in other games too, not just this one.
Yeah. Actually, when I first played Dark Souls 2 for the first time, there's the crow's nest where you can drop the petrified somethings to get random items.
Yep.
Very first thing I got was a Channeler's Trident. I was incredibly happy.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I picked it up a few times for that, getting it as a trade. And I know when I've had it, I've never used it versus the enemies, but not even really as a buff. I just wanted to go around doing the dance. So I'd either invade or get summoned in and just sit there and dance, because it's the best. Toss some prism stones down, make a little circle and dance.
And how about Matt? What's your first pick for memorable Dark Souls enemies?
Well, I'm going to go in with my favourite, which is the Black Knights or Black Knights. I absolutely love these guys, I must admit. I just think aesthetically, gameplay-wise, I think they are definitely my favourite enemy. In Dark Souls 1, I know they make reappearances elsewhere, but for me, the first one I came across was the one in the Undead Burg, and the one that's sort of slightly hidden away. I must admit, I when I first saw him, I didn't really know what or who he was. Because the fact he had his back turned, I thought, oh, is he an NPC? Could be crept away. They like being crept away, don't they? So so the first time I came across one, I ran up. I must admit, I didn't try and backstab him. I tried to run up to him because I thought, oh, he's someone I may be able to talk to. That was a mistake, as you can imagine. And then he, absolutely tore me apart. And then next time I tried backstabbing, which he didn't like. So he he tore me apart again. The one I have the most fun with is the next one, which is the one in the Undead Parish, which is the one on top of the tower. So before you get to that, as Dave was saying earlier about the big pig boar creature, obviously just after that bonfire, you can turn right up to a little tower, like you do, just go up and investigate, and he's on the top of it. I must admit, anytime I see the Black Knights, I think the reason that I like them is the fear factor, and the one on that tower always gets me, because what I always try to do tactics wise is drag him down to the bottom, because he's find him easier to fight. And then I play there's this little Benny Hill sort of game that I play with him, where I'm trying to kite him down, and then is he following me? Oh no, he's not. Oh no, there he is. He's following me, and then and then I play this backwards and forwards game and get him down, and then we tend to have a little game around that bonfire where I'm using the bonfire to sort of put a gap between me and him, and such like. I think they're my favourite. Again, just what I was saying a minute ago, where it's the fear factor. I think that they're a very intimidating enemy because, like a lot of things, they're silent, apart from obviously the noise they make when they hit you with their big weapons. But I think as a visual thing, because they stand quite a bit taller than an average sort of human. I mean, to me, I know they're not, but if it was another game or media, they would come across almost like elf-like, because they're quite, they're tall and quite lean. It reminds me of a bit of the elves off of Lord of the Rings and such like. I know not armor-wise they're not, but it gives me that sort of vibe. Like, if you said to me they're elves underneath, I was like, yeah, that would be probably right. Whereas obviously the reality is they're actually spirits, aren't they? They were burned to ash, because they are the former Silver Knights of Gwyn, and I love the fact that the reason they've got their Black Knights is because they were charred black because of the flames and the fighting the Chaos Demons and the Demon War. I think that is a brilliant, rather than just being, they're black because they decided to paint them black. They're actually black because of the being charred that way. I think that's a fantastic reason to justify them not being silver anymore. And I just think that as a whole, they're just they're a fantastic enemy, primarily as well because of the different weapons. Obviously people hunt them for hopefully getting the good their weapons as drops, and I think the fact that they you don't refer to the Black Knights as where they are, you refer to them by their weapon. Oh, did you find them? Yeah, it's the great sword one. Oh, it's not the halberd one, is it? It's not. You're not talking about it's the Darkroot Basin one. You're talking about it's the halberd one. That's how they get judged. I think, and I remember reading as well or seeing that Miyazaki said that when designing the Black Knights, one of the reasons for the design, especially with the armor, is he wanted them to wear armor that no one else would wear, or a conventional human wouldn't be able to wear. That they're quite self-contained in their armor and such like. So I thought that was quite an interesting design choice. But yeah, they're one of my favorites. I love them, except for when they keep respawning towards the end of the game. Then they're bastards.
That part's very much fun.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So Dave, what would be your second one?
Gets back to me. The second choice, I picked this guy, the Parasitic Wall Hugger. So it's an enemy that only makes a singular appearance in the game, and infests the wonderful Blight town, and already dark, dank, and poisonous swamp area, and it's sort of like a spider slug kind of guy. It's not super visually distinctive, only because it's so dark in the area. However, it's several times larger than the player character, and it's made its home in the mouth of sort of like an aqueduct, like a giant pipe. And you see it sitting there even from far away, since it's so large, and its little tentacles, and it's just kind of like crouching wait. I was afraid it was gonna get out and like climb all over like the terrain and just come chasing you, because that's all I could think of. Was it's going to chase you down these stupid little ramps that can't find the ladder. You're lost. All you see is little torches, and guys are just shooting poison arrows at you. It's a horrible zone. Just thematically, it's not it's an uncomfortable place. I think one of the I don't know, I felt more uncomfortable in Blighttown, I think, than in the rest of the game, and that's not because of the frame rate issue that I don't really think I experienced much of, but seems to be some people's downfall.
Dave, it would worry me if you said it was the most comfortable place that you find.
Look, I just wanted to, find my swamp. Okay, gotta protect the swamp. I was just comfortable there, my mosquito buddies and giants and my bestie, man-eater Mildred. We just hang out.
Bestie. Nice.
No, it's a horrible place. All I could think of was the bog of eternal stench from Labyrinth.
Yeah,
I used to imagine it smelled so bad. But yeah, so that the wall hugger, who I think he attacked you from the front, but I must have stumbled. There's a little way to access the back side, where the wall hugger is sort of immobile in that pipe, and he's I guess ostensibly he's guarding. I want to say it's a spell. It's been a while since I've.
It is the Parvati Power Within.
Okay, so yeah, you can actually get that from coming from the back and kind of just dispensing with him, without worrying about any damage. But just visually, it was a very threatening enemy, and I spent a long time just creeping around, like he's waiting for it to just amble out and just kind of come after me. So I think just the imagined threat of the thing was far worse than what it actually posed.
Yeah, definitely. I was always very intimidated by that. Yeah. Whatever it is.
And I was glad it didn't make appearance anywhere else in the game, even though I thought there were a few places where they could have plugged another one, and it would have been effective.
Yeah.
All right, we are on to your second choice there, Cameron.
I have picked perhaps the most beloved enemy in all of the Souls games.
I can see your notes.
The Bone Wheel Skeleton. Yeah. So our good old Bone Wheel Skeleton. He is a lovely fellow. He appears to be basically a skeleton just bolted onto a wagon wheel, and then they've rammed a bunch of spikes onto the wheel. And he's a very free skeleton. He likes to go fast. And he especially likes to run you up against a wall and kind of just turn you into a fine paste.
Nice.
But that's not why he's memorable for me. The instance of the first real glitch I remember in a Dark Souls game. So these guys appear in the catacombs mostly. I think there's a couple in the Painted World as well.
Yeah, they're in the Painted World as well. Yeah.
Catacombs just before the Pinwheel, technically a boss fight. But I'd made my way down there. I was tired of necromancers. I was tired of surprise black knights hidden under crumbling floors. And so I was in this small corridor looking out into this sort of vaster underground area, and I just see this shape come roaring towards me. And then I take one step to the side, and it goes into the wall and then clips through it and falls out of the world. the bone wheel.
Did you say you're free, Bone Wheel? You're free. Live your life.
Was it supposed to do that?
I don't think so. Because I then proceeded to free every single bone wheel in the area by leading them back to that spot and making them run into it and drop out of the world.
The number one
You're
cheese
doing
tech.
your bit for the goodness of the world there.
Yeah.
And they never showed up in this game again.
But yeah, so, I really love the design. They're I'm pretty sure they're straight out of Berserk, actually. Probably is correctly, so if I'm remembering correctly. But it is a really striking design. And I think it's actually based on a Japanese folklore monster as well, if I'm remembering right. I mean, Neo, which is the wheel monk.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're strapped to the wheel and tortured for eternity to come drag sinners to hell.
Yeah, that's the one. It's got interesting flavor. It's Dark Souls, so I'm assuming Pinwheel just went, what makes skeletons more convenient? I'm going to make them fast. They're slow buggers otherwise. But yeah, no, they're very memorable. They're very deadly if you're unlucky, or if you're very lucky, they're just not a problem. Apparently.
Thing is, they wouldn't. To me, they wouldn't be amiss in like a 1980s cartoon of some sort. Like back in the day, like He-Man or something like that. If Skeletor decided to come in with some bone wheel skeletons, you wouldn't think much of it. You're like, yeah, that sounds about right. So yeah, they're an odd one because they feel like they should be out of place because they're so bizarre compared to everything else in that part of the game. With the catacombs being quite, a skeleton fest really, which you expect. Yeah, but they don't. They shouldn't. They look like they should be out of place, but they're not out of place, and I don't know why. They just don't. You think, yeah, okay, yeah. Skeletons on wheels. Why not? Yeah, I don't know why. I just think they do.
Yeah, and I would say that they do appear in later titles in the Souls series, but I think aside from this first appearance, they're lessened somehow. I mean, they never have quite the same impact. I don't know if it's an HP pool thing or a damage output. They're most deadly here.
Yeah, I think it's a damage thing because I remember finding them in Dark Souls 3 and being very scared to actually have to fight them. And they weren't really a problem. They just didn't do much damage.
Yeah, and I think that's a shame. I think that they should have kept them as formidable as they are because they're in the greatest numbers here, but why are they like the most strong? It's like you only find 3 of them later, and they're pushovers. And you can take their wheel, and that's cool.
Yeah. Yes, you can, which is always cool. Okay.
All right. Is that it
Matt,
for our friend's bone wheel?
Yeah. I was just going to move on. So yeah, Matt, what was your next pick?
All right, number 2 for me is the demonic foliage, which is quite a funny combination of words. It sounds like it's something you would say about when your garden gets a bit out of control. But yeah, so the demonic foliage are the tree-like enemies that you face in the Darkroot Garden, which I suppose they're a bit Ent-like in from other games. So they're not tree. Well, they're sort of trees, but they look. Like I said, they look more like a combination of a tree and a bush sort of enemies. I mean, I think they stood out because they caught me quite. They caught me out quite often actually because they're another similar to like I was saying about the Black Knights earlier. They're another silent enemy. They sort of come out of nowhere and don't really make much noise apart from obviously trying to hit you. I think they and especially the actual location Darkroot Garden, because it's a very tranquil place, especially when you enter it. after you've gone past. Is it Andre? You go past Andre, and then the Titanite demon. Yeah. And then you come in. It's quite a peaceful place. And again, it's obviously that's not going to last for very long, and something is going to come out. But I didn't expect it to be the trees. For being honest, it was that was not what I was expecting. And again, I think it's the fact that they rush at you as well in a way. They sort of will, you'll be just there. And the one that really frustrated me is the one that I can't remember which bit. It's a bit further on in the diary where it almost catches you from behind. I think there's this one bit where you collect an item. I can't remember which item it is in a little secluded bit, and all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere. It's literally been sort of following you, and and again, it's because they're silent. It's not like it's behind you and it makes it's squawking at you or roaring at you. It just creeps up at you, and it's just like you can imagine these Foley just going, yeah, that's what I do. I just creep up and hit people. It's just there's no. It's like it's nothing special in that sense, but I think again it creates a lot of fear in Dark Creek Garden, because you're then looking at every tree going, are you going to attack me? It's sort of you get I mean, that is a real mind thing. If you're worried about trees as you're going around an area, that's that's a real I don't particularly know much lore on them, because I don't think there is much lore on these particular enemies. I mean, obviously like I said, tree-like monsters, common in other media as well. I just think it's an obvious Dark Souls thing to do, really. I just find them fantastic, really, is the way they are, especially when, they're a nightmare when there's a couple of them. Again, especially how early they are in the game as well. They can be tough in their own way. I mean, they don't take much to go down. And then what makes it worse is that once you've dealt with them, obviously there's a good chance you drag them along with your feet, because obviously they get caught in your feet a lot, because again, they don't stand out. So you've killed them, and then you're just walking along grass, and then you find them dragging along with you. It's almost like, again, you can't get rid of them. But I don't know if you guys have had any experiences with these, but I just think they're amusing, but a very good enemy as well.
They're definitely very funny. I like the way they just kind of jump about. Kind of, they move pretty oddly.
Yeah, they do actually. They're sort of they do glide a bit, but then they don't as well. I mean, that describes one of my work colleagues as well. I called him a demonic foliage. He didn't know what I meant, but yeah, they're quite odd. But I think they're a good. Again, it's like a lot of these enemies that we're covering. They match their area, and I think again it keeps you, obviously it keeps you on your toes like a lot of the enemies do, but I think as well it's another lesson to learn, that things will be sort of hidden within not just creeping around the corner, but they can actually literally in plain sight and hidden and such, like, you don't see them come in, especially with the fog and, the mist that's in Dark Creek. I think it's, it's definitely almost slight horror element to that as well. I think, it's really well played, actually.
Yeah, and I think one or more of them, I mean, they're literally shrubberies, and they just come out of the ground. So they're not an enemy that's like the hollows or any ones you encountered beforehand that are already visibly walking around. The first one you see, I believe its back might be to you, and it's walking around, but slightly farther into the garden. There's one visible one, but then there's like a patch of looks like tall grass, but it's actually just its head. It's under the ground, just pops up and gets you. And they do have a grab attack, which is one of the few enemies that just does that and stops you from being able to move.
Yeah. Again, I think it's their silence which makes them fearful. Because it's not like they're one of those things where they're part of the background, and then because you'll get some games or media where where they'll come out of the ground and they'll make a big noise and like as they come out of the ground, you're like, oh yeah, these just creep out of nowhere. They're literally like little assassins. They'll they'll just bound towards you and catch you unaware. So yeah, I like them. So I think, Dave, it's your third one, isn't it?
Back to me.
It is.
Yeah, so my third choice here to pick what do you want to call it?
Number three. The
Bounding Demon of Izalith, and you encounter was it like 3 of them? 3 or 4. There's not very many. And I don't think until I looked these up when I checked Extra Life, I think, for a lot of the just to get some quick references for some of these monsters, at least visually. The Bounding Demon, it's sort of like a thick-hipped dragon with a very small torso, and it's just legs. Mostly all legs, and
they're basically the lower body
game,
half.
I just thought it was a pair of walking buns because that's all you could see.
Yeah. I didn't actually recognize the name until you described them. I was like, oh yeah, you're talking about the dragon butts.
Dragon butts, exactly. And they have a face in a front. It's so compressed, and the two times I've gone through Izalith. I had both the I guess is it the Slumbering Dragon Crest Ring?
Yeah.
And the Covenant Ring, or the Forest Covenant, where you're basically invisible.
Mm-hmm.
So I just snuck past these like stomping around butts. So I've never fought them. I've never tried to. I just ran. I ran invisibly past all of these large buns. Didn't want them to sit on me or whatever they were going to do. So I don't know what they do. Maybe they just step on you. I didn't never fight them. I'm not sure.
They do a few things. They're all about jumping and stomping, really. And they sort of do a sweep attack, I think, as well, with their tail. They're they're sort of one of those that they can hit hard as well.
I imagine so. This was a case much like the Parasitic Wall Hugger, where the visual impact was so great that I was like, I'm not even going to bother with these guys. I have my stuff on. I'm just going to sneak past. And I did so on more than one playthrough. And still never to this day I've like tried to fight one. I was like, it's just, I don't like big butts. I don't know.
Cannot lie.
Oh dear.
Oh goodness. So that's my third. Oh, and they're stomping around in lava.
Yeah.
So that part also wasn't cool. So I just was like, I'm not gonna mess with this. So that's on to you again, Cameron. That was a short one.
Yeah. I've brought you Dark Souls' most beloved friend and foe. I now bring you Dark Souls' most loathed foe, I'm pretty sure. The Silver Knights of Anor Londo.
3.
Bros. Yeah.
Anyone who's played through Anor Londo will probably know why I found these memorable. So Anor Londo is the city of the gods. You get there after all this struggle, this hard work. It's not built for people, so you spend a lot of time running around on sort of rafters and crenellations and parapets and stuff. So there's a lot of thin, small areas where you can be very easily knocked off into the void. And then you start climbing one particular area, and an arrow the size of a lance just kind of hits you and throws you about 40 feet off a ledge.
Welcome to Anor Londo.
That's welcome to Anor Londo. Enjoy your stay. These guys are actually what stopped me on my very first playthrough. I was a horribly unoptimized build and I couldn't do proper damage, but I was just kind of running through things. I couldn't run through that. So you basically have to run up this very thin ledge, and there is an archer to the left and there's an archer to the right. and whichever way you face, you're going to get shot by something. And you're meant to, push your way to the right, sort of kick that guy off the edge, because I'm pretty sure no one fights him on that like half-foot ledge you fight him on. And then you can safely drop into Anolondo itself, but I was just never able to do that with my first character.
And then you get to find that there's a whole castle full of them.
Yeah, this is their house. You get in, and they are all over the place. So the ones up on the rafters were armed with great bows. The ones inside tend to stick to sword and shield, or spear and shield.
Spears, yeah.
Fantastic if you can get it to drop. It's a lot of fun to use. It also does miracle damage, so it permanently kills skeletons in the catacombs. It's nice. But they're just all over the place. They're tough to fight unless you get pretty good at parrying. And they look really nice. They're the unburned version of the Black Knights Matt mentioned right at the start.
Well, there's
and they're sort of just.
I was going to say that there's sort of well, I've sort of read again whether it's true or not that there is a chance they're actually human in their armor compared to the black ones, like obviously which have been burnt to ash. These are actually still alive, if you want to say that expression. There is actually a human or humanoid, actual knight under there, because obviously they were under Gwyn, so they're the ones that were left behind, weren't they? To protect.
It's Dark Souls 3 implies that they were still alive, at least for a time, because spoilers for Dark Souls 3, they show up again there in some capacity. And apparently they just kept guarding and kept on guarding and kept on guarding, and they just didn't stop. And God, I wish they had stopped.
Now, I never did the Dark and Orlando run. Are all these Silver Knights also, aren't they illusions?
Oh, actually, you might be right. Yeah,
I think they are.
If they're there in that run.
I think so.
So I think when you activate Dark and Orlando, it removes 90% of the enemies. I think there's very few left.
Oh yeah,
if any,
basically left.
Yeah,
there are I think 3 enemies, and all of them are NPCs.
Yeah, that pop into wreck your day.
Yeah. Okay, so there might just be illusions then.
Yeah.
Fair enough. They're still very dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, and if no one has that, back to Matt.
That's me, yeah. So my third choice is the Skeleton Beast, otherwise known as the Skeleton Dog. That's their more conventional name that they're known, which you'll find in the Tomb of the Giants. In essence, like I just said, they're effectively a skeleton dog. They are literally on all fours. I mean, again, common theme with the ones I've picked, it's the fear thing. They're very hidden, because obviously the bit you come across them, it's very dark in the tomb. So they're sort of one of those enemies that you'll sort of just turn and all of a sudden they're there on, just sort of saying hello in the dark. Again, they're not, from a design point of view, they're not anything overly special. They're, like I said, they are effective, but they I suppose the one thing about them, that even though they are a skeleton dog as such, they're not, they do look like a humanoid as well. They're not sort of, they haven't got the sort of same sort of design as you would imagine. If I said to you a skeleton dog, you wouldn't visualize these, because they're sort of, it's almost like a human on all fours with a slightly bigger skull with bigger teeth and such like. So it is a sort of a mix between a conventional human skeleton and a dog skeleton, which I suppose makes them a bit creepier, to be fair. I mean, they can be quite hard to deal with. They're more one of those that, luckily, because they've got, I think from memory, they've got quite a short aggro range, so you can sort of, as long as you're quick to get the first hit in, especially with a spell of some sort, you can take them down quite easily. But if you don't, they can be a bit of because I think from memory, there's a bit where you come across them along with a Black Knight and something else. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but they can be. They can cause you trouble just like the others as well. And again, it's just another evolution of the skeleton, the skeletons you see throughout this game. Like we were talking about the bone wheels earlier. This is just another creepy form of them. And I think the Tomb of the Giant see them. I must admit, I always find weird along with these and all the other skeletons that they're weak to fire. I don't know why. I always find something bone-based being weak to fire quite odd. I don't know if that's the same for you guys, but that's their the main way you can take them out throughout the game. But I just find them creepy, to be honest. And again, they're another silent sort of enemy that like I said, just is on you. A bit similar to the demonic foliage that they're on you before you know it, really. So that's why I like them.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're actually the origin for one of my favorite gifs of Dark Souls, which is the guy just walks forward. He's got the skull lantern, but he hasn't raised it up yet. He just takes a couple of steps forward, raises it up. Yeah. The face is right there, and he sort of just backsteps off down back to the bonfire.
Yeah, I think I've seen the one. Yeah. That's what I mean. They, like I say, because of their aggro range, you just inadvertently come across them, and then, like I said, it's almost like you could just imagine like just shining the lantern over and then they're going, hello. and then just sort of, it's sort of, but you wouldn't want to pet them though.
No, probably not.
No. that's a good bit of monster advice for everyone.
Yes. They're a valid employment of your nope strategy.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I think are we on to the DLC now? I think.
That wraps up what we'll cover this episode for the main portion of the game, and so we'll take a look at a few short selections from Artorias of the Abyss, which is the DLC that eventually just came as a pack-in.
Unfortunately
named Prepare to Die edition. Would they not have chosen that? It would be better, but they did, so we're stuck with it.
Yep.
So, the DLC is accessed in what we'll come to find as like the signature, like ridiculously convoluted way to get into a DLC, and if I think without a walkthrough, would you ever find this? Not
no.
Offhand.
No, not offhand. There are clues, but they're so minor and convoluted that it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, they're super obscure. I think you need the ring from Sif. And then
no, so you need to kill the Hydra in Darkroot Basin.
Yeah.
You free Dusk from the Golem. You then need to go to the Duke's Archives, kill a Golem there, get a pendant, then go back there, and that's how you get into the DLC.
Okay. Yeah, I remember it was I definitely looked that one up.
Same.
But so it's ridiculously difficult to or I guess it's not difficult, it's just circuitous. It takes a minute to get there. None of the individual steps are like, inordinately hard on their own. So that brings us to my selection for Artorias of the Abyss is the Sanctuary Guardian. So you do all these crazy steps to get into the DLC. You access the DLC, and I want to say, I think it just drops you right into like the little walkway.
Yeah.
That leads onto a large open area.
Yeah.
Like an arena, which you're walking to what you like. This is going to be a boss fight because this is just huge open space and nothing to like, no terrain or anything to break it up. So, I remember spending all that time, and I got into the DLC, and I'm just excited to go. Yeah, I'm gonna go do the DLC, and walk right into a boss fight that I had to keep walking back into probably like 10 times. It was ridiculous. So our titular creature is a chimera. It's a giant lion. Okay, we talked about the bone wheels not quite fitting in. This was just mind blown. I'm like, what? Why is there a chimera here? This doesn't look like anything else. In fact, it looks like a lot of similar things jammed into one, beast. Definitely didn't feel like it fit in, except for it was ridiculously annoying. That part fit in. So basically this lion / eagle snake tail, I guess. Scorpion's tail. Okay, in this one.
Yeah.
So it's fairly traditional chimera. It breeds.
It's almost like a manticore, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's sort of like a
manticore, but it's without the human face.
Yeah, basically.
So, yet another pull, them just pulling from a couple different sources and making it something new. A new twist on an old favorite, I guess. And I want to say he blasts lightning out. It's been a long time since I.
They got lightning.
Battle.
Yeah.
I recall at least. I know the first and probably through the third successive attempt was me just trying to Benny Hill around nothing, because there's nothing to like dodge behind except for like a piece of stone or a bit of log or something that doesn't really block any of the attacks. And I did, for such a large area, I think I was always confined to the first like quarter of it, just running. And thinking that if I tried to run too far, I would be out. You don't want to really be in the middle of it because there's nothing there, and maybe you can kind of kite him around the edge, and he might get stuck on a piece of log or something, or try to hide. There's a lot of jutting out pieces of scenery on the edge of the arena that look like you can hide behind them or use them for some kind of cover. That's not the case. I think there's a piece that might block a little bit of lightning, but mostly no. He just killed me over and over and over again. And I was like, I'm not even in the DLC yet. I'm just trying to get into the DLC. So that was my rude awakening, to a game that already it's in the middle of the game, And so I finally defeated the Sanctuary Guardian and got into the DLC proper and found it wasn't any easier.
Actually, I've got a funny little story actually with the Sanctuary, because I before I sort of ever played or got into the original Dark Souls, and obviously when I was trying to stay away from anything online, just not to spoil anything, but obviously Orstein and Smo get mentioned a lot, or Owen S, and and I was thinking, who are these two that keep getting, it's the hardest thing you'll face, and then I thought that when there's a bit where there's two of these guardians you've got to fight or can fight. I thought that's who they were. I thought, I linked, because I'd seen a video, like a fight, a 10-second video of the two the Sanctuary Guardians, and I think, God, that looks a nightmare fight. And I thought that's who Ornstein and Smo were. I thought that, that's who they were. Obviously, I was a bit wrong, but so I just always thought that was actually the two. So yeah, that was a rude awakening for me.
I was gonna ask Dave, what were your thoughts when you turned around, I'm hoping at some point, and had a look in there again, and there were just two of them kind of standing there looking at you?
Yeah, I was like, well, I don't need that bonfire, I'll just use the other one. Yeah, that was no. I didn't see any benefit to fighting both of them, and I don't think I looked up to see if they dropped something. So it's like, we'll just not do that. Which is funny because that's after I had beaten Artorias, and that was a difficult fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot funner. Like I enjoyed that more. And I think it took me less tries. It took me more tries to get to the stupid Sanctuary Guardian than Artorias.
Well, I suppose there's the argument that from do the humanoid type and boss is better than the big monster fights. I mean, it depends which side of the fence you're on, but I think that's an argument for it, isn't it? Which you obviously see later more in Bloodborne and such like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's food for that one. Yeah, and I think I don't like the big open arenas as much either, because there's just me running. I can run and try to get behind him, but if you mess up that, you get stepped on or whatever, and it's kind of one hit and you're dead. So I think there was that too. I don't know.
Yeah.
I won't make any other excuses. I'm not that great at this game.
Go on, let it all out, Dave. Let it all out.
Okay, so that's my notable Artorias of the Abyss creature.
Yeah. I'll go next, shall I?
Yeah, go for it.
I got this down in the notes as, because I was doing this from memory, as the Royal Woods Gardener, but I've checked the wiki. Apparently, it's just called the Scarecrow.
Scarecrow.
I think the Gardener's a much better name for it. These guys are actually demonic foliages from earlier, Matt. They're sort of the same generic body shape. They're just missing the giant leafy afro.
Yeah, they've had a haircut.
Yeah. So it basically looks like someone's given these evil trees a haircut, wrapped them up in some sort of shoddy clothing, and then handed them farming tools because they got to look after the forest. The reason I picked these is not because they're terrifying enemies, not because they're difficult to fight, but because they are adorable. I really love these guys. You can see some of them just sort of doing their work, like the ones with the shears will be sort of secateuring away at low branches. The ones with the plows will be sort of digging in the ground a little. And something about them is just really pleasing to watch for me. I really love them.
Yeah. I mean, I think judging on your description there of what they are, it was sort of, I was getting images of, when people, sent into the military and they get their hair shaved and and such, like we were just saying, yeah, they've had a haircut, they were given clothes, we got to work the field. It's like punishment for all the demonic foliages that were stalking people in Darkroot Garden. That's their punishment.
Possibly. Yeah. I wish they dropped the shears, but apart from that, because how fun would it be to chase someone around as an invader with just a big pair of scissors? Yeah.
Yeah, I think they only dropped
be
the
amazing.
pitchfork, right?
Yeah.
But that's not as fun.
No. Farming tool.
Hey. Yeah. And I think that leaves Matt.
Yeah, I'll wrap this one up. My choice for the DLC is the comedic, one of the comedic enemies of the DLC. Which, if you thought the Bone Wheels were funny, I've gone for what's officially known as the Abyss Guards, but more known as the Bloatheads that you find in Ulysseal Township. Now, where do I start with these? These are one of the most bizarre enemies you'll probably come across in the game. I think, in all honesty, when I first came across them, I think, from memory, I died quite quickly because I was just in such shock from them. For people that don't know what they are, they're, again, humanoid with very oversized arms, which are bent at the elbow, almost in like if you look at one, they look almost like they're in an M shape. They're an odd one because they're almost, I suppose, a bit gorilla-like, in the sense the way, but they don't use their arms to walk. They walk on their on their normal back legs, and they've got a sort of warped face, which is basically eyes, and I just find them so bizarre because of where they are really in the game. I wasn't expecting them because they run at you like a lot of enemies do, but they sort of have this weird sort of noise as they're making. They're all, almost laughing, and they're crazed, and I think it's, for me personally, that they stood out because of the animation of the arms, because they're sort of, again, that's why I sort of said the comedic earlier. They look so bizarre that my mind couldn't process. It's sort of, like what you were saying, Dave, about the Sanctuary Guardians. You're sort of like, whoa, what's this about? I know these are not the same thing, but they just took me so aback that I thought, is this a joke? Is this, these are such odd enemies to find it this far in the game, or in the DLC, and one of their combo, like one of their attacks, is a slap combo. I mean, that's how he summarizes them. They come in sort of main two forms. Is the normal version, and there is also a sorcerer version, which laughs manically at you as it's firing. It's sort of, again, I think it's, like a lot of all the enemies that I've picked throughout this episode, I've picked the ones that I find fearful. And to me, these are instill fear in a different way, just in a bizarre way, as opposed to a danger way. I think that any game or any media which an enemy or creature or monster is where you can't comprehend them in some way, where they're so, your mind's going, what are these about? I think is a good design choice. Ultimately, I think like Dark Souls does have a lot of enemies which are quite traditional, skeletons and the other such ones, but these are just so, these would, if they didn't have those odd arms and sort of crazed sort of demeanor about them, they would probably just be another odd looking enemy. But I think they stand out because of it. I just they're not overly difficult to deal with in there. I mean, if they rush you, and there's a point I think in the township where there's like 3 or 4 of them can rush you, they can be quite a pain to deal with, because they literally just charge you effectively. But I just think that they creep me out so much, and I think these wouldn't go amiss in Bloodborne effectively later down the line. I know obviously this is obviously was done at years before, but these would definitely fit quite nicely in there. So yeah, that would be my DLC choice.
Yeah, so I think that that wraps up our enemy choices for this first look at Dark Souls. We'll be returning to the various Soulsborne games over the next week or so. Kind of get some feedback maybe from our listeners on if they have particular favorites or standout moments that they recall. I'm kind of in this just as much for the anecdotes, I think, as the monsters.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I just remembered the mushroom parents. How could we forget the mushroom parents?
They do make an impact.
Oh, I'm kicking myself now.
Yeah, they're odd. But I mean, like I said, we could be here all day with all these choices. It's picking. Like I said, I think when I know personally, when I was trying to pick which of my favourites, it is down to the ones that you had the best experience with as well. The ones that like you said, Dave, anecdotes and funny stories. I think that's the ones that stand out to the most, because let's be honest, most of the enemies in these games are memorable. And I think they get even more memorable as the series goes on, to be honest. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping we'll get a chance to explore and take a look at the other games as well. We'll also come back a little bit and maybe go over some of the larger enemies, some of the bosses maybe.
Might be a good choice. And
maybe dig into a little bit of either lore or inspiration that these guys came from. This was just kind of a fun little romp about, and nothing too serious this episode.
Definitely.
Although I don't think we're ever that serious.
No. Ban out, man.
Well, I think that wraps us up for this episode, guys. Anything else you wanted? Any last minute Bobs and bits.
I'm going to do a quick shout out to the Dark Insight podcast because I am guesting on this week's episode. We did a recording earlier this morning for me, and it was a lot of fun. So I think that'll be episode 55. So go give it a listen when it's out.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good group of guys, and they've helped us out in the past, and we will always be willing to return the favor. As for myself, I'll give a shout out to Twin Humanities guys and Patty Stardust. He's been doing a one bro run this last month and a half, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
And that's actually inspired me to make my own attempt. I started that today, actually.
Nice. Nice.
So we'll see how that goes. Maybe next episode I'll have an update.
Keep us updated
on that. I will do. It was my intention to kind of run through and try to check up on some of the enemies in game that I'd wanted to talk about this episode. And I realized my accessible character was in New Game Plus, and I wasn't gonna try to run around and find everything. Not in 2 hours. So I was like, I'll just start from the beginning, and maybe I'll just get the Thief's Key and go check out Blighttown, and that turned into, you know what, I'll do it and not level myself up. And it's working so far. I'm up to Andre, and I have a +5 spiky club. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
I think that. Do you have anything else, Matt?
I was going to say sort of my shout out on the Dark Souls theme. I'll be, going ahead. I should be brought in. It'll be my turn to appear on Jeremy's Don't Give Up Skeleton podcast next month. I'm due there sort of in a month's time to do my recording, so I'll go into a bit more detail of my Soulsborne experience. So obviously I've not recorded it yet, but obviously, give his podcast a listen, all the previous ones, because they're great.
Yeah.
Well, great. That's our shout outs and our stepping a little bit more into the community. And we look forward to hearing from you guys out there. I think that wraps us up. Cameron, where can listeners find you on the interwebs?
You can find me primarily on Twitter at @knight_twitten. That's Knight without a K. Matt, yourself?
Same for me. I'm all about Twitter, and my handle is @NinjaBadger and then the number 7 because it's my favorite.
And likewise, I'm also on Twitter, Sentient_plus. And we are also on iTunes, and if you guys could drop us a line or review, some retweets, that'd be great. Any questions or comments are welcome, and we already have some guests lined up for future episodes, and we'll welcome other ones if you're interested. Yeah. So I think that's us signing off for this one.